Hey everybody, this is Giancarlo Aulino, Michael Asiffo, and Aaron Zaretsky reporting for the game plan, and we're starting something new here. We got our roundtable first edition here live on Millions, and guys, we're going to start off with something that took place this weekend. WWE SummerSlam, Cleveland, Ohio. We got a big return at the end of the night. Our tribal chief is back. Roman Reigns comes out, and he went right after Solo Sikoa. So I'll ask you this first, Michael. Roman Reigns' return. What do you think about it, and what does this mean now for Cody Rhodes' title reign?
Um, you know, Thanks for coming, Cody. It's over. Leave the title at the door. No. You know what? You know what I'll say? Like, just kind of like overall, I really like that WWE is committing to long-term storytelling again. Because I think that was missing in the later years of Vince's era. And by later, I mean like from like 2009 on. You know, we were just not getting a lot of long-term stories and build up. It was kind of like if the shareholders did one thing, then we go the other way. If the shareholders did another thing, then we go the other way. And unfortunately, that led to a lot of inconsistencies and just not a great product in some spots. So I like the fact that they did, with Roman Reigns, departure and return, there was a story behind there to set the table for him to return and get the ovation he did. The ovation was honestly, it felt like Attitude Era again in terms of like just how loud the crowds were back then. That ovation was he received a hero's welcome. So I think it's all good. I don't know what this means for Cody's title reign in the short term or the immediate future. They might maybe do a program moving forward, but I think that Cody should count his days for the title reign, and that's okay. And that's okay, right? I think the whole thing was to give one Rhodes member a title reign, and that's that. So all in all, great. But to answer your question, Cody's title reign, I give it 3 months. I'll say that max 3 months.
Yeah, Aaron, do you share those sentiments? Because I saw when Roman came out, the crowd going crazy. That was like their dream 5 years ago. Roman getting that kind of baby face reaction. So, what did you think about it?
Yeah, like I thought it was great, and like with the fans, it's like having Roman now as a baby face again. They're more accepting of it, and they're going to, cheer him on more because I think most people in the WWE universe just got like a little bit tired of seeing Roman Reigns as the tribal chief for like so long, and just he keeps winning and everything. It kind of got like stale. So now that he's going to go against the bloodline, it should be great to see and have a build up to Survivor Series.
I agree. And it's also like what the long term storytelling, also, that Michael, you brought up there. We saw it play around all night there, whether it was Dominic Mysterio's long term storytelling, and also with CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and Drew McIntyre's long term
Mhm,
storytelling. So, what
mhm.
do you think about like highlights from this Saturday? And is there a storyline you're interested in seeing most now as in the coming months?
I like it all. I like it. I like it all. I like where WWE is going for the most part. I want to see where they're going with the Wyatt storyline. Before I kind of go head over heels for that because it could, you know, hit a dead end. Just given the history of how they push Bo Dallas and Chad Gable. But in terms of like my favorite, I'm kind of partial to the CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, and now Seth Rollins storyline. I'm biased. I've always been a CM Punk fan ever since he cut that pro. Well, even before then, I think the promo with Jeff Hardy was when I was like, okay, this is the guy. This guy is the real deal. But I think you're getting so much out of it with how personal it's become and CM Punk's history being brought in a tasteful way. I think if you know about the AEW stuff, um part of I think the reason why it ended so poorly is that they were bringing up Punk's past in such a distasteful way. And it came out to be untrue in some spots. And I think with here, they're using it in a more tasteful way. That doesn't mean they don't like, blur the lines for sure, like that Drew McIntyre picture with Jack Perry. Fantastic, wonderful, drama, messy. But I think because Seth Rollins has a history as like the Shield with the whole thing about whether the Shield CM Punk's idea, and Drew McIntyre and his issues with CM Punk in real life, and the whole thing, it adds a level of um I guess gravitas would be the word, like importance to the whole feud. Um, but it's also done in a way that you don't feel icky and gross, watching it.
Yeah, I agree. It's like working themselves too much into a shoot type of thing where it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, we can bring that stuff up, but there's a way to bring it up where you're doing like a subtle reference. And what Drew McIntyre has done online though, just top tier stuff. Phenomenal.
fantastic, fantastic.
And Aaron,
Yeah.
same question to you. Like those long-term stories that we've seen play out at SummerSlam and what it looks like in the coming months. What were the highlights for you, and what are you looking forward to now?
Yeah, like it's so exciting to see where things are going to go next, especially with the Judgment Day, and then later the night, right? Finn Balor turns his back on Damian Priest, which leads to Gunther becoming the new World Heavyweight Champion. So now there's a lot of talk that the Judgment Day is done for good. So, well, but who knows? Maybe Judgment Day could be reincarnated with a couple other people. It's like I seem like Carlito's now like the only guy standing now. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And then with the Dominic of how Michael Cole made a comment about like when Dominic getting like custody over Dominic from many years ago with the battle between Ed Guerrero and Mysterio, and how he incorporated that into the current storyline. It's like that's like super long term storytelling. If you
Yeah.
consider that. But yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing like with Gunther of how long they're going to give him the title for, and to see his new reign.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to be a good one too. Refreshing, especially for that heavyweight title scene where kind of seen like the same kind of guys hold it. So Gunther holding it now, that's fun possibilities there. And one of them that could be there, you guys were in the arena at Money in the Bank. John Cena announces a big retirement. It's a tour, so I know there was some confusion at the time that it might end at WrestleMania, but at the end of 2025, he'll officially retire. So when you were in the arena, Michael, what was your reaction when John Cena announces, you know what, I'm here in Toronto of all places to announce my retirement?
You know what? There was rumblings that he was in the city. I think he went to a restaurant. I can't remember, but like a really classy Toronto restaurant on the waterfront, I think. And they saw him and they spotted him and whatever. Or that was the rumor, allegedly. So we knew he was in the city and he was going to have some part to play. We thought it was going to be in the triple threat main event, but turns out we were wrong, and he announced his retirement. And it was a somber mood for sure. Surprise, a lot of shock. Um, but I think in terms of the retirement itself, it's a good idea. Um, you know, for me personally, I think the idea of John Cena doing the part-time thing when he was, I mean, I have no qualms with him doing part-time thing, but I think it was between him and I would say maybe Randy Orton, who were very like, no part-time, this is dumb. At least that's what you would hear on the dirt sheets. So for him saying, hey, you know what? I am done, like done. I'm not going to be like part-timing it. I think is a good idea for what he stands for, and I respect that at the end of the day. So I think in terms of my reaction, I thought good idea. Crowd's reaction, you heard a lot of please don't go. You heard a lot, one more match. And even the way he announced it, you kind of was like it sounded like, oh, he's retiring now. Wait a second, he's retiring at WrestleMania. Oh, wait a second, is he retiring at the end of 2024?
Yeah.
He didn't know. So there was a lot of like, oh my God, he's gonna be done like today. And then when we clued into WrestleMania, we're like, oh my God, like how are we gonna fit this in? Is he gonna break the Ric Flair's record? Yada yada yada, right?
I agree. Especially like watching it, I was surprised. I'm like, wow, John Cena, Money in the Bank, he's announcing his retirement, and as the promo goes on, it's like it's turning into like a Kobe farewell tour type of thing, where it's like the 2025 season. He's gonna wrap
Mhm.
it up. So, Aaron, same thing to you. Like your reaction first when you saw Cena come out and make his announcement, and like as he's cutting his promo, do you have any opponents that you would like to see him face, even for his final couple matches?
Yeah, so I was so surprised when he came out, and I'm just like shocked, and then starting to think, oh, like what's he doing at Money in the Bank? And then yeah, with he announcing his retirement tour for next year. Um, like I think, yeah, there's just some pretty good opponents. Like I think he might want to face guys that he never faced before. So maybe like a Gunther, that could be like a dream match, or maybe face other guys like maybe like LA Knight, or try to build like an up and comer. Um, like I know that he fought like Solo Sikoa a while back, but maybe Solo Sikoa maybe have like a more of like a story between Cena and Solo Sikoa to build them up even more, to put him really over the top. But yeah, or it should just be, something really look forward to, or or maybe to bring back some nostalgia. Maybe goes against an opponent that he faced so many times before, maybe like a Randy Orton. So that should be very interesting to see, and really looking forward to it. And I think with his retirement matches coming up for next year, I think fans will be more appreciative of him during his last and final run, kind of similar to like with Roman Reigns, where it's like people just got like kind of stale of John Cena for so many years being the heavyweight champion. But I think now just going to be very appreciative of just how good John Cena is just as an entertainer and a wrestler.
Definitely. And you mentioned Randy Orton there. Like, Michael, do you think this is how it has to end? A Randy Orton punt to John Cena?
Maybe. I mean, Randy Orton's punting days look like they're pretty much over in terms of punting the good guys. I think from a rivalry perspective, Randy Orton's a good idea. But I think the correct answer, and again, I know, CM Punk, Mark, but I think it's got to be CM Punk, just because from a match perspective, they probably have the best chemistry in WWE history. Broke the 26-year 5-star match drought that WWE had. They had, in my opinion, an even better match at Night of Champions. And going into even WrestleMania, their match there was to see if CM Punk would face The Rock. The number one contender match was fantastic as well. So they have really good chemistry in the ring, and I think it worked. But I'm also with Aaron, like where it's like, let's get some dream matches going. Like let's see like a Super Cena versus Gunther. Let's see a Cena versus McIntyre. Let's see some other guys in there. I would like Cena's sneaky athletic. I would kill for a Cena versus like Ricochet when he was still in the WWE, for example. Um, I know that's not the way they're gonna go, and they need to plan to get. In my opinion, I think they need to get Cena over and give him the Trish Stratus treatment of him retiring as champion. I think that's the way to go. Break the record and retire as champion, in my opinion. But I like the idea of him like kind of climbing his way to the top and facing guys in some dream matches.
Yeah, like it would be cool to see Cena versus Braun Breaker.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be good.
absolutely.
That'd be a good one. Now that you mentioned Braun Breaker, yeah, that's a good one. You got Scott Steiner, Rick Steiner in there. Maybe Braun Breaker can hit that Steiner math on John Cena, his chances of winning. So that would be definitely something to look forward to in the coming months, especially once his schedule for next year starts becoming more and more confirmed, the dates he's going to come in for. But it looks like the three PLE's Rumble, Chamber, WrestleMania are guaranteed he's going to wrestle. So that's going to be fun to see. But let's move on here to the Olympics. And there's been a lot of stories come out of just Canadians, and especially we had some drone scandals with the soccer team. Unfortunately, they were unable to go through there. But basketball is one that a lot of fans are looking at. This team could make some noise here. They have a nice matchup coming up tomorrow, and then they take on, or if they get through that, they can go on their path and maybe face the States in the final. Michael, do you think this Canadian team could shock the basketball world and maybe upset the States if they make it to the final?
I don't think they have what it takes to beat the States, and and probably Germany's better than them too, to be honest with you. Um, but I like the fact, and just like the Canadians women's team that you mentioned as well, this team has resilience. They have goal, and I like that it was on display for them in this matchup, in like the group stage so far, just like it was for Canada, where Canada's women's soccer team, where they were dealt a bad hand. Both of them, obviously, the women's national team dealt a worse hand, but they didn't complain, they didn't moan, they gritted their teeth, got the boulder at the bottom of the mountain, at the bottom of the summit, and worked it up. And I like that we saw that from this team, and it gives me faith that they could beat France, like they did in the exhibition matches. By the way, but the one issue that the Canada basketball team has is their front court, the big men up front. There's a little bit of leakage there. If you've seen the games, there's a little bit of leakage. Um, that's not to disparage Dwight Powell and Kelly Olynyk. They're doing a good job on the other end. It's just unfortunately they're undersized for the center position, especially against France. So it's gonna be a tough climb for France, and then from there, it looks like they would probably have to face the winner of Serbia versus Germany. No, Germany versus Greece. If memory serves me correctly, was it Germany versus Greece or Germany versus Brazil? So if they have to face Germany, I just don't like our chances against Germany. They run. They're basically a faster version of Canada. So that's why I'm like, okay, I don't like our chances against them. But I'm here and ready to be proven wrong. I am ready to be proven wrong.
And what I've seen from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been unbelievable. RJ Barrett, Raptors fans going crazy for him, but Jamal Murray, you would think that he would be the second option, and RJ Barrett seemed to have taken that spot. So, like, Aaron, what do you think of this Canada team? And do you think if Jamal Murray were to start getting hot, that maybe they can pull off some upsets here?
Yeah, like if Jamal Murray can play the way that he did during the Denver Nuggets championship run from the previous season, that'd be a big added boost to be that leading point guard. But I do really like this team. Like this is the best Canada basketball team that I've seen play together, and them having Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a top 10 player in the NBA, is a big added bonus. And like my expectations going into this Olympics for Canada is to win a medal. And the way in my head I was seeing playing out would be like US gold, France silver, Canada bronze. But now that Canada has to play France in the quarterfinals, winner go home, it's going to be a big challenge for sure. But I think that Canada has the upper hand with Alexander and Jamal Murray, especially, and then RJ Barrett. Like, if he can continue his growth and continue to really be like a next level guy, then it should be a great game. Like, it'll be a close game, Canada versus France, but I'm really looking forward to it. To hopefully Canada can continue their dominance and try and earn a medal in these Olympics.
Back to what you said about Jamal Murray too. It looks like there's some reports of him being hurt. So some injury issues, maybe some fatigue, maybe some dead leg. I don't know exactly what's going on, but that could be contributing to some of his woes. So maybe they get in some limited minutes, and he has like a more effective performance in those limited minutes, just given the fact that he is hurt, um, allegedly, reportedly. So um, yeah, I think it would be if he gets going. I think the sky's the limit for Canada. Like I think if he's effective in his time on the court, I think they're just Canada. The one thing about Canada is they've shown that they can put up a lot of points as well as defend. They're gritty on the defensive end on the perimeter, and they can score a lot of points, right? So it I don't know what's going on with Jamal Murray. I just want to make that very clear. I'm not saying, oh, he's got a torn ACL, the Canada's putting him out there. But what I'm saying is allegedly there are some injuries or some nagging ailments that are hampering his performance.
And to your point, Michael, of like one of Canada's weaknesses be their lack of size. So if Canada France gets into like a rebounding battle, that could be a big um, disadvantage for Canada, right? Because with France, with Wembanyama and Rudy Gobert, right, and then Canada doesn't like the Canada has Kelly Olynyk to kind of height wise balance, but Kelly's more off the bench. So yeah, it's going to be a big problem if it gets to like a couple possessions game down in the last couple minutes and like rebounding, key rebounding.
I mean, I will say, just a quick note, I do like what I've seen in Melvin Edgem in like his limited
Yeah.
minutes. I think he's played really, really well for him. Um, but for whatever reason, we're not going to him as much as we should, I think, in my opinion. I don't know what that is, but listen, I'm not the coach. There might be some sets that he just isn't effective on. He's not the greatest shooter in the world, too. So maybe there's some bunching of the floor when that happens. So we'll see. We'll see what happens against France.
That's tip off there tomorrow. So hopefully they get through them. I know like the Wembanyama is a matchup nightmare for a lot of people just because of the size difference there. And Kelly Olynyk, hopefully he can do something. But Shy, I think him, RJ Barrett, I'm optimistic for this one. So that's Canada versus France. And just speaking of Canadians, before we start streaming here, Michael, talk about like Donovan Bailey and that interview that took place. I interviewed him. This was the day before the red carpet thing. So the day of the red carpet, Ariel Helwani, who we all know and love, interviews Michael Johnson, and he had some things to say. Donovan Bailey reacted on the broadcast this past weekend. Michael, what are your thoughts on this track and field beef that was from the 90s and it seems to be playing out now in 2024?
You know what? As an MMA guy, we definitely need a celebrity boxing or celebrity MMA match between Michael Johnson and Donovan Bailey. And while we're at it, if Ben Johnson can still go, we get Ben Johnson in there, we get Carl Lewis, and we make it happen, right? We make it happen. Have them be the co-main. No, in all seriousness, you know what? I think honestly, there are very few times where like people say blame the media, and I'm like, you're absolutely right. We should blame the media, and even in this particular instance, in the media effect, I'm not blaming Ariel Helwani. That's not what I'm saying. That's not where I'm going. But if you look at the history of Michael Johnson and Donovan Bailey, it never really got as hostile as it did until the media started like kind of pinning them against each other for the 100. And then Bob Costas does the whole thing with the 150, and then he pulls up. And if you're Donovan Bailey, you feel like your moment's been taken away because now all you're going to hear after being in the 150 is, oh, he pulled up. What if we get like a real rematch? And Michael Johnson's not going to agree to a 150 right after. You know. So Donovan Bailey feels cheated, says what he says, and it's a Canadian heritage moment. I don't care what anybody says. That is one of the greatest moments in Canadian history as he goes on the interview and says, matter of fact, get your butt on the fucking line and we go one more time, paraphrasing, but it was a great moment. He feels cheated, but at the same time, Michael Johnson's manhood and his professional career was just called down in front of everybody. So it just, I think it was a spark that was started that didn't need to be started, and unfortunately, we're here now because guy athletes have egos, athletes have pride, people have pride. It's not just an athlete thing, just in general. And unfortunately, those wounds aren't going to mend. Maybe they do a sit down his interview like what Kobe did with Shaq, where they sit
Oh
down
yeah,
and
that'd
then
be
they
good.
talk it out. Yeah, I'm so glad. Like, so unrelated. I'm sorry, but I'm so glad Kobe did that the year before he passed. Like, because we would have never got clarity. I know they're cool. Like, I've heard they were cool years before that interview, but it was. I'm glad they did that, and maybe Michael Johnson and Donovan Bailey need one of those.
Because I know there was even that TSN documentary that they did and engraved on the nation. And Aaron, I'll ask you this one because like we've seen like different sports where athletes, it's kind of just their rivalry carries over, and fans like to have that narrative that there's still a rivalry between them. Do you think this might be like one of those situations where maybe in behind the scenes are like cool and all, but for the media and everyone, they'll play this up and make people believe that there's still some animosity there?
Talk about long-term storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Oh, like yeah, like with track and field, with just athletes in general, like Dante and Baylor, I don't think it's a ruse where it's like they're actually like really good friends, but then they just put on a persona that, oh yeah, we'll just be enemies, so that media and talk about it, and just we get a lot of attention that way. I think it's like an actual like serious unresolved tension, unresolved issues, an argument, or like something that they never really talked about during all these years, but now it's being brought up again, and like they should like to your point, Michael, they should have like a sit down interview or something where they just really talk it out and hash things out, because yeah, it just seems like there's just so much unfinished business left, and it definitely would be cool to see, but also just to see like more details about like the whole beef and the whole like I guess maybe something wasn't said, or they don't want to say what actually happened, or something like that. But yeah, it would be really entertaining to see, just to have the issue be resolved once and for good.
Perfect segue here to our next topic. UFC antitrust lawsuit. Right when you think something is resolved, they decided that's not resolved. Another judge didn't like the ruling and what was being paid out, and has decided that they're going to do this all over again, and he's going to look into it. So that if I'm the UFC, that sounds like a lot more money is going to be lost there. Michael, I guess from the UFC's point of view, do you think that this is fair on their behalf, or do you think this should have been all along what it was? Like, this has to be a lot more money.
Oh, you know what? Unrelated note, let's shout out Summer McIntosh, the swimmer,
Oh,
who's been killing it for Canada as well. But neither here nor there, excuse me on that. But in terms of the UFC's perspective on this, okay, when I first heard they rejected an antitrust lawsuit settlement, I was like, hold on a second. You can reject, the judge can reject a settlement, like that can be a
yeah.
thing. I didn't know that could be possible. You know what I'm trying to say? So I was a little shocked, and I want to know what was going on. But when you look at the history of antitrust lawsuits and like what happens, a lot of them don't actually make it to trial. Like this is the 1800s with Standard Oil. Like a lot of them don't actually make it to trial. What ends up happening a lot of times is it's basically a warning to companies, hey, clean up your act or we will, right? So like for example, AT&T cleaned up their act, Microsoft cleaned up their act famously. Um, you know, uh, there's another company that's escaping my mind right now. I think it was ATM. But the whole point is that a lot of times when it comes to these things, it's more of a clean up your act or we'll clean it up for you, and you won't like it when we clean it up for you. And when the UFC, and I think when this case wasn't dismissed and it outright went to court, that's when the UFC needed to clean up their act. And unfortunately, I mean, look, I think what happened was they were on their way to cleaning up their act. They did that whole thing where they traded one championship. They've kind of intentionally lowered their monopoly on the talent of fighters. I mean, they're still clearly the most talented, the organization with the most talent, but it's not as much as it used to be until Francis Ngannou and the whole Sunset Clause thing. And when that happened is when the UFC kind of shifted back towards the other ways. Um, I don't. There's reports, or Dana White said it, that like, hey, the guy went to high school with me, and it seems personal. I think that's the worst possible thing to say when that same judge is presiding over your case, and it is a judge trial, not a jury trial. Um, but neither here nor there. I think what that means, though, is that the UFC has to go back to the drawing board. And I'm not necessarily saying that they have to get into the 9-digit mark, sorry, the 10-digit mark, but they got work over some money and some actual legit change to their business practices. No one is saying give the fighters 60% revenue or anything like that. No one is saying let the inmates run the asylum, so to speak. But there's got to be some industry changes that the UFC is at the forefront of. You know how this could be solved, honestly? Have a fighters association. Just I know Dana White's history with unions and why exactly he's so adverse, and it's a lot of personal stuff. And I'm being serious. My heart goes out to him when it comes to that stuff. But maybe a fighters association that has worked out so well for other leagues, by the way, would work in this instance, as the UFC is kind of sort of a hybrid between boxing and the NBA, so to speak, in the way they run their business models. So that's just a suggestion for me, but it does look like they gotta, make some actual legit industry changes.
Yeah, I agree. And like Aaron, just ask you this: like we've seen in other sports like NBA, NHL, the Players Association come together. Like if the UFC doesn't have to be that one that maybe forms it, like let's say the commissions all get together and uh, like the percentage of your fight purse, whether it's from UFC, PFL, one when they're ever in the States, like a North American version of that where we're gonna get like 5 to 8% of your purse, and then when you retire, you'll see that all come back to you. Like, do you think that would be a compromise that they can go to rather than the UFC having to form one?
Well, with the whole like Fighters Association and everything like that, and even that too, like it could be very tricky, and that's in a sense where it's like with them now being part of TKO, right? WWE is also part of TKO now, so and like WWE, they've been known to not have a union or a Fighters Association, things like that. So like if UFC were to get one, then wrestlers in WWE could be like, well, if they get one, we should have one too, since we're all part of now the same company with TKO.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, so that's going to be a very tricky situation for sure. Like, the fighters and UFC, with the UFC being such a big company and the growth has just gone through the roof over the last 20 years, the fighters should be compensated more, but it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future.
I agree. And Michael, like the UFC now, their TV rights deal is expected to be a massive upgrade to what they already have now with ESPN. So, do you think if fighters see like, okay, WWE now under the TKO banner got a $5 billion Netflix deal, UFC, let's say, get more than that from whether it's ESPN or Fox or whoever decides to outbid the other one for it? Like, is that where they come up and say, you know what, now it's time to take action if you're an active fighter?
Okay, so a couple things. One, I'm not convinced that the UFC's what's the word I'm looking for? That the UFC will actually get a better deal or if they do get a better deal, it's not going to be to the tune of $5 billion, like it was for WWE. Just because when you look at kind of the state of MMA right now and the tea leaves of MMA, it's growing for sure. The sport is growing, but it's not growing as much as I thought it would what from COVID on. And so I'm not as convinced that they're going to get the $5 billion mark. I think they're somewhere in the 2.5 to 3, but you never know. And I am team MMA. For God's sake, I'm an MMA fighter. Well, used to be until the knee, but it's I am I yeah, I want MMA to prove me wrong and to get 10, 15, 20 billion. Like just take it to the moon. Give them 40 billion. Why not? But I'm not convinced. The other thing is that when it comes to the deal and the revenue sharing and the whole thing is when UFC was taken over by WME, who became Endeavor. WME, there's a whole video on it, and for years I've kind of been a little like low key on it because when you start saying, "Hey, the company that bought the UFC is in debt," it ruins the stock price. It messes the stock price up. And if you want MMA to grow, you probably want to keep that in the wraps. But um, when WME bought it, they did it as a leverage buyout and had to prove a lot of things. And one of the things was that they'd be able to generate a lot of net revenue, right? Not gross revenue, net revenue, which meant they had to increase gross revenue and lower their spending. And you know what's an expense? Your employees. Okay. So all that to say is that I think we're out of the woods when it comes to that. We're just seeing the light. We are just seeing the light on that stuff. But I'm seeing nothing indicating to me when you look at the numbers now that they're a publicly shared company that suggests to me that they're out of the woods when it comes to that leverage buyout and that their debt issues have been solved. I've not seen anything that indicates to me that that is the case. And therefore, I don't think that even if they were to get that deal, that the fire revenue is going to go up to such a massive extent. I don't think it's necessarily going to go up to from 85 to 16% like it is now, but I mean, I don't necessarily think it's going to stay at that number. Excuse me, but I don't necessarily think it's going to be at 50-50, so to speak. Like I think it would probably at best go up to 30%, just from a financial perspective there.
It's going to be an interesting couple months now with that because the antitrust lawsuit, and all of a sudden, once that gets resolved, the TV rights deal. So, yeah, UFC fighters definitely going to be keeping an eye on what's going on there. But I'll ask you this first, Aaron, before we close here. Final topic: what's either a sports headline, or anything going on in the next few months that you're most exciting about?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so in the next few months, obviously, right, with the NHL season will be starting and the NBA season will be starting too. Something I'm looking forward to is the second edition of the NBA in-season tournament. Um, and that's going to be interesting to see again, and just how if it can, I guess, grow more than the way it did last year. Because last year started to gain some traction with the players and the fans, but now that's going to come, I guess, the start of a yearly thing now. Um, you know, hopefully, because the NBA's goal was to have those in-season tournament games, like make games in November and December, like start the season more exciting. So hopefully that can continue. And to see, and also the Raptors. It's going to be the Raptors' 30th season, of course, and I'm excited to see what the uniforms will look like. If they're going to bring back the purple jerseys that they wore many years ago during the Vince Carter era, and yeah, definitely looking for to see that, and also with WWE as well. Like I saw during the SummerSlam, they played a banner of it's like the season premiere of SmackDown on USA in September, And then I got myself thinking, like, you having a season premiere on USA in September, but then a few months after that, you moving to Netflix. So yeah, just be looking forward to that and see how everything plays out.
Michael, same question to you. What are you most looking forward to right now?
Okay, well, I don't know if you guys know this, but Simone Biles just got second like an hour ago, losing to Rebecca
Oh,
Andrade. So I'm looking forward to seeing how in the heck one of the greatest gymnasts of all time got second. This is like a massive upset in my opinion. Like, did she fall? Like, what happened? So we gotta see what happened for her to lose. It was on the balance beam, which I think, according, I'm not an expert in gymnastics. Like, I'm not out here watching gymnastics every day, but according to what I've heard, that might be Simone Biles' like weakest aspect. From other people, I've heard that it's her weakest um, event in gymnastics. But at the end of the day, she got second. I want to see what happened there, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. In terms of other things, definitely looking forward to seeing how Netflix WWE will look. Because now they're not tied down to a rating. Are they going to go full Attitude Era, or are they going to try to keep it classy but allow their wrestlers to swear here and there for more emotion? Like, what are they going to do like on that front? Um, I hope they go with the latter, in my opinion. I just think that the wrestling's been better than it's ever been. I actually think the promos are better too. Um, it's just that, we get very nostalgic about the Attitude Era because the crowds were louder. There's a lot more enthusiasm and still cool Steve Austin. But I want to see how Netflix WWE is as a product. Um, and then kind of finally, I want to see, like, NFL season. Um, it seems like for the first time in a long time, it's not a foregone conclusion that the Chiefs are going to win. Um, and so I want to see, like, if Lamar Jackson, for example, can take the reins as like um, a Super Bowl champion and extending and ascending into the pantheon of greats. So yeah, that's basically what I'm looking at right now.
And I know that it's not sports related, but I'm looking forward to the U.S. presidential election to
Oh, that's gonna be
oh,
fun.
yeah.
to see who wins and the fallout afterwards.
That's a great pick there. All of them great picks. I won't comment on that one. But
Just
yeah,
we want to see the world burn. It's okay. We just see the world burn. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking, guys.
all great picks there, especially like that with Lamar Jackson. That's actually one low key. I think this is going to be the season for him coming up. But there's another one that you mentioned there. I'm going to agree with Michael on the Netflix thing because I want to see how unhinged The Rock is going to be when he comes back. Because what we saw, just completely going against every like potential rule set from guidelines from the network. Yeah, he didn't care. So when it goes on Netflix, it's full reign for him. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to that. And I like the Raptors this year. So 30th anniversary. I want to see what they have planned for Vince Carter. I think a lot of fans are curious to see because the Nets are going to retire his jersey. He made his career, I think. A lot of people would agree in Toronto is where he became a superstar. So one thing I'm looking forward to is to see how the Raptors show their appreciation to a Hall of Famer or future Hall of Famer. So that's this edition here, the Game Plan Roundtable. We appreciate
Oh,
you if you all tuned in here. Yep.
oh, and that just we earlier we talked about John Cena opponents possibly for his retirement tour. Do we get Rock versus Cena one more time?
Oh,
Oh yeah,
that'd be
that's a
good.
good pick. That's a good pick.
That's a good one. That's a good one. The final boss versus maybe a heel Doctor Thugonomics John Cena one more time. That would be good. But that's this edition here. If you stayed for the end, we appreciate that. Check out our profile page where you can see all our interviews, all our content, all our reels, and yeah, keep supporting us. Follow us on social media and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, guys.
Later.
Have a good one.